They say the ones who run from love are the ones who feel it the deepest. The avoidant doesn't flee because they don't care. They flee because they care so much it terrifies them. Behind every silence, every retreat, every unread message, there's a heart that's fighting to love without losing itself. The paradox of distance and desire lies at the heart of every avoidant's emotional experience. To the outside observer, the avoidant seems detached, uninterested, or even cold. Yet behind that calm exterior is a storm of longing they can neither express nor escape. Their distance is not a reflection of how little they care, but rather how deeply they feel. The more they want someone, the stronger their instinct becomes to retreat. It is not indifference that drives them away, it is intensity. Love, for them, is not a gentle river, but a flood, threatening to drown the fragile boundaries that protect their sense of self. When an avoidant begins to care, the world inside them becomes unstable. Every emotional connection awakens buried fears of abandonment, of engulfment, of losing control over who they are. They have learned, often early in life, that closeness can bring pain, that love can turn into dependency, and that depending on someone means being at risk. So when they meet someone who touches something deep within them, their instinctive defense system activates. They withdraw, not because they want to, but because it feels safer to stay in control. Distance, for them, becomes a way to manage emotions too powerful to handle directly. This paradox creates an emotional loop that traps both the avoidant and the one who loves them. They crave intimacy but are terrified of what intimacy demands, the surrender of walls they have built for years. Their actions seem contradictory. They may pull back just when things feel good. They may act indifferent while secretly thinking of the person they cannot stop wanting. In their silence lies a desperate wish for safety, not solitude. They want to be close, but on terms that don't overwhelm them. To understand this paradox, one must look beyond behavior and into the psychology beneath it. The avoidant's core wound is not the absence of love, it is the loss of safety within love. They have come to associate closeness with pain and distance with peace. Yet this peace is temporary. The very space they create to protect themselves becomes the space that deepens their loneliness. When they withdraw, they imagine relief, but soon they feel the ache of disconnection. They might convince themselves they don't need anyone, but late at night, their thoughts drift back to the person they left behind. The contradiction torments them. They want what they fear, and they fear what they want. This constant tug-of-war between desire and defense shapes their entire emotional world. The avoidant's love is quiet but consuming, cautious but sincere. Beneath every retreat lies a hidden yearning to be understood without being chased, to be loved without being trapped. The tragedy of their nature is that they push away the very closeness they long for, mistaking safety for solitude. The paradox of distance and desire is not about a lack of emotion, but about emotions too powerful for the avoidant to face without fear. The avoidant personality lives in a constant tension between wanting to connect and fearing that connection will cost them their individuality. Deep inside, there is a learned association between love and danger, between closeness and the erosion of self. The fear of emotional enmeshment grows not from arrogance or disinterest, but from the deep-rooted belief that to be loved is to lose control. When an avoidant encounters intimacy, their first response is not joy. It is panic masked as calm. They appear self-contained, independent, and emotionally distant. But underneath that composure is a person terrified of disappearing within another's expectations. Love, for them, has never been a gentle merging of souls. It has often felt like a slow erasure of selfhood. In their early experiences, emotional closeness may have been unpredictable or suffocating. They might have learned that the only way to stay safe was to rely on themselves, to never need too much from others, and to keep feelings under control. Over time, This coping mechanism hardened into a belief system. Dependence equals danger, and attachment equals loss of freedom. They develop the ability to appear composed and detached, not because they feel less, but because feeling deeply threatens the fragile structure that keeps them emotionally stable. Their fear of emotional enmeshment is therefore not about avoiding love, it's about surviving it. When someone gets close to them, it activates an unconscious alarm. The avoidant begins to sense that their boundaries are dissolving, that their autonomy is being invaded, even when the other person means no harm. Every gesture of affection can feel like a request to give up a piece of themselves. So they withdraw, emotionally or physically, trying to reclaim space. To their partner, this retreat feels like rejection, but for the avoidant, it feels like breathing again. They need that distance to remember who they are, to ground themselves, to feel safe in their individuality. They long for love, but on terms that do not threaten their self-definition. The irony is that the more they care, the more threatened they feel, and the harder they pull away. This internal conflict creates patterns that repeat through their relationships. The avoidant may choose partners who are emotionally expressive, drawn to their warmth, but later overwhelmed by their intensity. They may seem to oscillate, moving closer when they feel in control, pulling back when the emotions grow too heavy. They may even sabotage moments of intimacy, saying things they don't mean or creating unnecessary distance, not out of cruelty, but from an unconscious drive to protect themselves. The emotional closeness they desire is the same closeness they fear will consume them. In their mind, love and freedom exist on opposite sides of a scale. When love grows, freedom feels threatened. When they reclaim freedom, love feels lost. This constant balancing act leaves them restless, unable to fully commit to either isolation or intimacy. What they truly seek, though often without realizing it, is a relationship that allows them to exist as a whole individual within the bond, not fused, not engulfed, but connected with space to breathe. For the avoidant, healing begins when they encounter someone who respects that space, who does not demand emotional performances or constant reassurance. In the quiet presence of someone who loves without control, their fear begins to dissolve. They slowly realize that closeness does not have to mean loss, that love can coexist with individuality, and that being known does not require surrendering their identity. Beneath their guarded silence lies a deep craving for that kind of safe intimacy, a connection that allows them to remain themselves while still being deeply loved. The fear of emotional enmeshment is, at its core, the avoidant's struggle to find safety within love itself, to believe that intimacy can hold both freedom and connection without destroying either. What most people fail to see about the avoidant is that behind their stillness lies a world of unspoken yearning. They often appear indifferent, composed and untouched by emotion, but this external calm hides a depth of longing that they rarely allow anyone to witness. Their silence is not a lack of care. It is the careful control of emotions that feel too powerful to express. Beneath their restraint is the desperate wish to be seen, understood, and accepted without having to expose the rawness of their inner world. The avoidant wants connection as deeply as anyone else, yet their way of wanting is quiet, hidden, and often misunderstood as detachment. Inside the avoidant's heart lives a contradiction. They crave closeness, yet fear its consequences. To want someone means to risk being dependent, and to depend on someone feels like surrendering the self they have fought to protect. They fear the vulnerability that comes with emotional openness because it makes them feel exposed, weak, and unguarded. They have spent years constructing a wall between their emotions and the world, convincing themselves that independence is strength. But behind that wall, they ache for someone to see the truth they never speak. That their silence is not rejection, it is defense. They hope to be chosen, but only by someone who won't demand they change the rhythm of their heart. This unseen yearning becomes a form of quiet suffering. They imagine connection but rarely allow it to happen. When they care for someone, they might express it indirectly, through presence, subtle gestures, or acts of service that replace words. They observe more than they reveal, love more than they admit, and miss more than they confess. Each moment of closeness stirs both comfort and fear, pulling them between the desire to stay and the instinct to retreat. To others, this behavior can seem cold or inconsistent, but it is actually a silent struggle to balance emotion with safety. The avoidant feels things deeply but hides those feelings to avoid being controlled by them. Their longing often intensifies in solitude. When they are alone, they think of the person they distanced themselves from, replaying moments they appeared unaffected by. They analyze their own silence and wish they had the courage to express what they truly felt. Yet even in that reflection, they justify their distance as necessary protection. They tell themselves that it is better to be in control than to be vulnerable. Better to miss someone quietly than to risk losing them publicly. In this way, their yearning turns into a hidden wound, always felt, never shown. The avoidance yearning is complex because it is shaped by fear, pride, and deep emotional intelligence. They understand emotions more than they allow themselves to show them. They can sense when someone cares, but that awareness only deepens their anxiety. To be wanted threatens to awaken parts of them they have long silenced, the part that still hopes for unconditional acceptance. They long for a love that doesn't chase or demand, one that feels safe enough for them to lower their guard. They want to be seen without having to perform, to be understood without having to explain, to be loved without losing their sense of self. What they truly desire is not the absence of emotion, but the assurance that emotion will not consume them. They need to know that love can exist without fear, that connection does not have to mean losing themselves in another. The avoidant's unseen yearning is the quiet battle between their heart's desire to be known and their mind's determination to remain safe. It is the silent hope that one day someone will recognize that their distance was never a lack of feeling. It was a sign of how much they cared, too deeply to risk losing themselves in the process. The avoidant lives in a constant state of inner conflict, caught between the heart's deep longing for connection and the mind's relentless demand for control. This internal war shapes the way they love, respond, and retreat. Their emotions are not absent, they are suppressed beneath layers of logic and self-protection. Every time the heart moves toward closeness, the mind intervenes, whispering reminders of past wounds, warning that love is unpredictable and that dependence can lead to pain. The avoidant begins to associate vulnerability with danger, and this association becomes the silent battlefield where every feeling must be fought before it is felt. When someone begins to matter to them, the avoidant's instincts clash. The heart feels warmth, attraction, and emotional safety for a brief moment, but then the mind begins to panic. It questions the sincerity of the other person, anticipates disappointment, and imagines scenarios where closeness will end in rejection or control. This flood of anxious reasoning convinces the avoidant that distance equals peace. They pull away not because they want to, but because staying close feels like standing on a cliff's edge. One emotional step too far might mean falling into dependency. The paradox is painful. Their detachment is an act of self-preservation that simultaneously deepens their loneliness. The mind of the avoidant is always trying to maintain equilibrium. It views emotions as unpredictable forces that threaten their stability. To regain control, they intellectualize their feelings, analyzing what should simply be felt. They replace emotional expression with silence, affection with withdrawal, vulnerability with stoicism. But the heart never truly stops wanting. Even while they are distant, they still think about the person they are avoiding, still check their messages without responding, still feel the ache of absence they refuse to acknowledge. Their retreat is never pure indifference. It is the mind's attempt to dominate the heart's desire. This inner war becomes exhausting. The avoidant begins to oscillate between moments of deep connection and sudden withdrawal. They may reach out, crave closeness, and then abruptly retreat once the emotions feel too intense. This push and pull dynamic often confuses those who love them, but to the avoidant, it feels like survival. They want to be close enough to feel loved, but distant enough to feel safe. Their relationships become a dance of hesitation, approaching with longing, retreating with fear. Inside, they are torn between the comfort of solitude and the unbearable ache of separation. The avoidant's heart, though quiet, is not empty. It beats with the hope that someone will stay even when they retreat, that someone will see their withdrawal not as rejection, but as fear. But their mind, ever protective, resists this hope. It reminds them that no one can be trusted fully, that dependence is dangerous, that love requires too much surrender. And so, the heart reaches out while the mind builds walls, both fighting for dominance but losing the same battle again and again. This creates a pattern of emotional self-sabotage where the avoidant denies themselves the very thing they crave most: deep, safe connection. Over time, this conflict becomes a defining part of their identity. They see themselves as independent, strong, and rational, but inside, they carry the loneliness of someone who has never felt safe enough to stay open. The avoidant's greatest struggle is not with love itself, but with the belief that love and safety cannot coexist. Their heart yearns for the warmth of connection, while their mind insists on the cold logic of self-preservation. In this silent war, they become both prisoner and protector, holding themselves at a distance from the very intimacy that could set them free. For the avoidant, healing does not happen through confrontation or demand. It happens through the quiet experience of being accepted without pressure. Their defenses were not built overnight. They are the result of years spent believing that closeness brings pain, that love will eventually demand the loss of freedom, and that vulnerability is unsafe. To reach someone like this, you cannot push through their walls. You must show them that those walls are not necessary in your presence. Healing begins when they encounter unconditional space, when love exists without insistence, when connection is offered without expectation. The avoidant begins to lower their guard not because someone breaks it down, but because they finally feel they can be both safe and seen at the same time. Avoidants are deeply sensitive souls who have taught themselves to appear strong. They observe emotions carefully, both theirs and others, because feeling too deeply once led them into chaos. When they meet someone who is emotionally patient, who does not interpret their silence as rejection or their distance as indifference, something inside them softens. They start to sense that love might not always mean surrender, that intimacy can exist without control, and that they do not need to choose between connection and independence. In this space of acceptance, their natural defenses begin to dissolve, not through effort, but through trust slowly being rebuilt. Unconditional space is not emptiness. It is the emotional room to exist without being changed. It means allowing the avoidant to come closer at their own pace, to express affection in subtle, quiet ways, to feel emotions without being overwhelmed by another's expectations. When they are not chased, they stop running. When they are not cornered by emotional intensity, they start to open up. This process is not fast or dramatic. It is gradual, delicate, and often invisible. But beneath their calm exterior, profound transformation takes place. They begin to associate closeness with safety rather than fear, warmth rather than suffocation. For perhaps the first time, love feels like peace instead of panic. The avoidance healing depends on consistency more than intensity. They do not trust words easily, but they begin to trust presence, the steady reliability of someone who does not withdraw when they do. Every small act of patience communicates to their subconscious that love does not have to control or consume. They test the boundaries again and again, pulling away to see if they will still be accepted, and each time they are met with calm understanding, their walls lower just a little more. What they are truly looking for is not perfection, but safety. The assurance that they can exist fully as themselves within a bond that does not demand constant performance. Over time, this unconditional space allows the avoidant to reconnect with their own buried emotions. They start to feel without fear, to communicate without shame, to trust without bracing for loss. They learn that being dependent on someone emotionally is not weakness, it is a form of courage. When they sense that love can coexist with freedom, that closeness does not erase individuality. They begin to love with a depth that surprises even themselves. Their affection, once guarded and cautious, becomes steady and loyal. They love not with grand gestures, but with the quiet certainty of someone who has found peace in vulnerability. The avoidance transformation is not about becoming someone new, but about returning to who they were before fear took over. It happens when they are finally met with love that feels spacious, calm, and unconditional. They realize that the safest love is not the one that demands constant closeness, but the one that allows room for both connection and solitude. In that balance, the avoidant rediscovers trust, not just in others, but in the very experience of love itself, a love that does not bind, but liberates. The avoidance journey is not about escaping love, it's about learning how to stay without fear. Beneath their distance lives a heart that never stopped wanting, a soul that longs to be met with patience instead of pressure, understanding instead of demand. When love gives them the space to breathe, they no longer have to hide behind control. They discover that true safety isn't found in distance. It's found in the kind of connection that honors freedom and still chooses closeness. In that rare, gentle love, the avoidant finally learns that they were never too much or too distant. They were simply waiting for a love that felt safe enough to stay.